quick testing here. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? All loud and clear? Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first eLotus webinar of the year. We're so happy that you're able to join us today. And what better way to start the new year off than today's class on business and practice making and enhancing. And we're going to just 2020 build bigger practices and be successful and happy, and it's going to be a great start. So you guys can't smell it, but Regan brought us basil here today. So if you had a smell cam on, oh, it smells, it got on my face. Sorry about that. Anyways, so it smells really good here, and the vibe's going great. So we'd like to welcome you guys to our eLotus webinar. My name is Donna, and I will be your host and your moderator for today's class. And here at eLotus, we've been hosting educational seminars and webinars for over 2 decades now. And it's been such a wonderful journey, filled with many experiences and lessons taught by speakers who are not only experts in their respected fields, but more importantly, they're willing to share the wealth of knowledge with all of us. We believe that the future of TCM and the advancement of Chinese medicine can only be obtained through continued growth, learning, and progress. And that's our goal here at eLotus, and once again, we are so happy to join you guys today. So let's get to know one another. How many of you are new to eLotus? This is your first webinar. Go ahead and type first into the chat room. Both Joshua's are first. Okay, great. Looks like we have a good crowd of first. So you're in for a treat today. Reagan's classes are really good. They're very motivational. So I hope you guys got your motivational pants on today. All right, so let us know where you're logging in from. Go ahead and type your location. I think I saw someone say that they were from India. They're watching from India, so thank you. We understand that the class runs until late at night for our international viewers, and we're very thankful that you're joining us. It's a great class, totally worth it, and you can think of it as an adult slumber party with 500 of your closest colleagues. Nice. California. David's from California. I'm from California too. I'm in California. Oh, there's our India.
Finland, Sweden. Stockholm, Sweden, my favorite city in the world.
Nice. All right. And then final question, you guys. How many of you are new to Reagan's class? Type in Reagan. Look, Reagan, you have some new friends today.
Oh, good.
Yay.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, guys, perfect. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to get to know you. Before we get started, let me go ahead and give you a short tour of what you are seeing on your screen. On the top left-hand corner is the video feed, and to the right of the video feed is the PowerPoint for today's class. There are lecture notes available for download, and you can find them on the Blue Course Access page. And for this weekend, Regan has a lot of slides in his PowerPoint, so I just want to give you guys a heads up. I did make the slides 2 printing options. There's 6 slides to a page or 2 slides to a page. So you can choose either handout, whichever one that you want to download. Now on the bottom left corner, you will see the chat room, and it looks like you guys are very familiar with the chat room here. And let me give you a little tip on how to private chat with your colleagues or friends friends from school. So if you want to private chat, look at the top right hand corner of the chat room. You'll see a menu icon. This is the horizontal lines with the triangle pointing down. You can click on that to start a private chat with whomever you like, and whoever is also taking today's live webinar. If you have any questions about any technical questions or any questions about the class, you can send a chat to the host, and that would go to the moderators, which is myself or Lisa or our tech Sam. So if you have any issues, please private chat with us there. We like to keep the public chat for class information only. And then to the right of this chat room, you'll find upcoming events here at eLotus, as well as important information for today's class. So do take a look in that area once in a while. All right, so if you do experience technical issues today, it usually includes slowing, skipping, or stopping. The number one culprit is the internet connection. So your internet may be, especially if you're on a wireless connection, it goes up and down. You don't know what you're getting. So we do recommend that you connect to the internet directly with an Ethernet cord. That's going to get the best internet juice from your internet provider. And if you don't have an Ethernet cord, the next best thing to do is to sit closer to your router, but there's no guarantees. We are here to help you. We are experts in the webinar world of how to connect to it. We've been doing this for a really long time. So definitely talk to us, let us know what's going on, and we will help you to the best of our ability. All right, so today, anyone else have issues? Okay, perfect. We're all on the same page now. So we have 3 groups today. Our first group is our Watch It Free group. You signed up for the webinar for free, and you're here. You only have access to today's class only. It does not include CEUs or the 4. Oh, now we have 4 weeks. Before, we had 2-week viewing, but starting in 2020, we are giving you guys 1 month viewing to watch the class again and also take the quiz so you have a longer time to watch the videos and take your quiz, etc. So our Watch It Free group, you don't have access to the CEUs or the 4-week viewing, but you can upgrade to our second group, which is our paid group. Our paid attendees, you do have access to the recording for 4 weeks, and you also get CEUs as long as you stay for the class and take the quiz. Our last group is our Gold Pass group. Gold Pass members have access to every single online course that we have for as long as you are a member. It's unlimited access. So not only do you get access to Regan's class today, you can have access to all of Regan's classes that he's ever done with us here at eLotus, and he's been with us for 8 years. I counted yesterday. I wanted to know how long. Yeah, I wanted to know how long I've known Regan. I was like, oh, dang, that's a little long. I must be 16. I must have met you when I was 16. All right. So let's go ahead and start the class today. We're all set with all the housekeeping essentials. So today's class is Acupuncture Blueprint for Success with Regan Archibald. And Regan is a functional medicine provider and founder of the award-winning clinic East West Health, which has 4 clinics in the state of Utah that employs the best of Eastern and Western trained doctors. He's also the founder of Go Wellness, which is the industry leader in creating a new genre in healthcare and research-based programs in acupuncture, functional medicine, and stem cell therapy. His mission is to end pain and chronic disease for as many people as possible and to educate and inspire individuals to enjoy the benefits of true health independence. All right, so let's go ahead and give a big warm welcome to Regan.
Regan with all those weird herbs and stuff. Okay, so appreciate you ladies being here. And you on this. Sam, where do you want me? Do you want me sitting, standing? I can move around. I got my ADD kicks in during these, so I'll be all over the place. But we're launching into a brand new decade, right? It's 2020, and I believe this is the most exciting time of our lives. I mean, it's the most exciting time to be alive. So let's just take a minute. And Donna said, this is my 8th year here with Lotus, and can't thank you guys enough for having me on and having me back. Let's just take a minute and look at 2010. So can everyone remember where they were in 2010? If you go back 10 years. Doesn't seem like that long ago, right? And think about all that you've accomplished and everything that has happened over the last 10 years. And just give yourself a little bit of applause for a minute, because you guys have pulled off, oh sure, You guys have pulled off so many amazing things, thank you, over the last decade that sometimes we don't even stop to congratulate ourselves. So what I'm talking about today is the Acupuncture Blueprint for Success. This is a program I created years ago to help inspire acupuncturists to be successful. But if you ask me, Regan, what's the definition of success, then I'm going to have to say success is where you look at your past and you appreciate everything that you have in your life from your past, and your past becomes your biggest pearls of wisdom. We're always future focused, and this topic, this course today will be future focused. But if you take a minute to look at your past and all the amazing things you've done, I guarantee you're going to be successful. And so my purpose, as Donna said, is to transform health for as many people as possible through transforming the way healthcare is delivered and practiced. And I think this is one of the key components that we want to look at today is how is healthcare being practiced, where's the gaps? And now that we've taken a minute and reflected on the past, let's look at the future and see how can we create an amazing future for people in our community, in our society, for our family, and for ourselves personally. And one of my missions, I don't have this on here necessarily, but one of my missions is to help you guys transform your own health and your own lives. And I've had the pleasure of working with many of you. You've come out to my clinics and gotten help that way, and I appreciate that. I can't thank you enough. And then just through our relationship. I love the relationships. I think that's what life is all about. And there's some cool people on here from Sweden. Sweden is one of my favorite cities in the world, Stockholm, Sweden. And then we have people from Portugal, from France, people from India. So thanks everyone for being on this. So the vision that I've got is, one of the things I look at in healthcare, and one of the environments that I've created is where we have a community of practitioners that get together. So a lot of what I'm sharing with you today is what I share with some of my high-level clients who, we get together quarterly and just really look at getting us at a higher level of knowledge, a higher level of education. So what we do wellness? Yes, and Kata, I know Sweden is a country, not a city. Stockholm is the city that I love, and so sorry, there's a noise variant there. But so what I say is creating sustainable strategies to transform healthcare is what we do, but who we are is caring entrepreneurs, healthcare entrepreneurs who love to grow teams, who can change more people's lives than we could on our own. So how many of you have a team right now? I just want to see kind of where everyone's at. So if you have employees, just plug in yes if you have people working for you. If you don't have people working for you, plug in no. And okay, some of you, a team of 5, looking to hire 3 more. No, 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 yes, yes, no, 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 no. Okay, so we're going to be talking about building a team. Hopefully tomorrow you guys get involved. We're going to be talking about the anti-aging acupuncture, so I'll show you some phenomenal ways that you can transform your practice there. But one of the things that healthcare entrepreneurs do is we grow teams who can change more people's lives than we could on our own. So if you think about that, what the big gap is that I see in healthcare, and for most of us as acupuncturists, we're great at our craft, we're really skilled, and we've refined that one job in your clinic, which is acupuncture and herbs and being the technician of the clinic. But we're not very good at running businesses, which is probably why you guys are on this. Because, I looked at this and I remember my rock bottom. I started practicing, I graduated from the traditional Chinese medical school of Hawaii, and I started practicing right out of the gates. And I just really put all my energy into it. I've always been an entrepreneur. I tell people I'm unemployable because I have worked for myself since I was 16. I started my first contracting business. I would do curbs and construction, and I've been doing that ever since. But I got to the place about 3 or 4 years after I practiced where I was working pretty much alone. I always had a receptionist, but I didn't really have a team. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. I would go home after working about a 12-hour day, and I went a lot of days where I would treat 50, 60 patients a day was not uncommon. And so I remember going home one night and my kids were asleep. My wife, I knew my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time was resentful. She was, not happy with the amount of work and energy that I put into my practice, because weekends I was at health fairs or I was, really trying to grow the practice, working on the accounting, all those things, ordering. You guys know how it is, cleaning the clinic. And it just got all consuming, and it was when I finally went home that one night, I was tired, I was exhausted. My kids were asleep. I realized they'd been asleep the last 3 nights in a row that I'd gotten home. And I said, this is not how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life where I'm just pushing myself all the time because I have this big mission, I have this big drive to help people. I said, I've got to create some sustainability in my life. And this is where I said, I'm going to find someone to help mentor me and coach me on how to run a practice instead of trying to do this on my own. And what happened is I had to let some things go. So what I learned is, in order for me to get to the next level, I had to get rid of some of the things that were no longer useful. So some of those were, yes, I did end up getting a divorce, and that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Some people say, what do you mean, Regan? You got it, that's traumatic. And yes, it was traumatic, but it was such an incredible experience for me because, yes, we still have a great relationship. I had 2 kids with my first wife. But I call it my practice marriage because I was not really the husband that it could have been. So, but I had to let that go. I had to depart from the religion I grew up in. And that was very painful because, it was my community, but I realized it was holding me down. And then I also had to break away from my Japanese teacher. So, and that was very interesting. But what's happened since then is not only have I found new mentors and a new community, I've created my own community at Go Wellness, and then I've also been able to meet the most incredible woman in my life, and so we travel a lot together. She's got a son as well, and then I've also built teams, and so it's created this environment in my life where I have 10 times less stress than I've ever had. I can come to this Lotus training. I don't know if you realize how much time actually goes into creating the content that I'll be sharing today, but I looked at it and it's about, for every hour of content that I produce, it's about 4 hours of prep time. And I do this every quarter, and so I couldn't do this if I did not have the opportunity to create freedom for myself and let my practice run itself while I'm working on bigger things. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. So it's my team who actually runs the clinics. I put the vision in, I put the nice little charge in the overall mission, and so we'll be talking a lot about how to do that today, and really appreciate you guys for being on this. So today, here's some of my goals. Here's some of my promises. Number one, I want to answer your questions, and I can, and I'll look up somewhat and then look down, but I know Donna will flag me if it's a really important question. But today, here's what we're going to learn. We're going to learn how to identify what pain is contextually and why it's presenting. Because for us in the medical field, Chinese medicine, arguably the #1 condition that drives the most people into our doors is pain. And if we can learn to communicate properly, but also broaden our understanding of what pain is, it's going to help us immensely. So I've done a lot of research on sort of the historical perspectives on pain, and pain actually is it's a very interesting thing. I talk to you about how to expand your patient results and progress in 100 days. So I have this challenge that I give people. So imagine if you were able to improve your health 1% every day for 100 days. Now, I'm no mathematician, but it's pretty easy to put that together. It's 100%. And so the interesting thing about that is if we can get our patients to improve 1% every day for 100 days, you have a 100% improvement rate. So pretty amazing. That's what we'll talk a little bit about that, how to build a successful acupuncture practice. And I'm going to ask you right now to think about all the things in your practice that are irritating. So just plug in, for me, I want to hear from you as if you're here with me, but plug in what you do not like about your acupuncture practice. What things drive you crazy? If you never had to do my phones and scheduling, I do not like scheduling. I can't even know what day it is most of my life. It's just my way. So non-compliant patients, paperwork, taxes. Yeah. If anyone has any ideas of how to get out of taxes, my bills every to me. Taxes, paperwork, insurance verifications, health insurance, too long of a wait list, marketing, notes, blockchain. Someone put blockchain. I don't know. Clients who have to take off all their jewelry, people not paying rent, reactivation, the laptop, notes, paperwork. Blockchain? Now, if you could elaborate on feet. That is one thing I do not miss about, I mean, I still practice about an hour a week, but I do not miss the stinky feet. The biggest thing is not having a practice. That's frustrating. That's the biggest stress that would be for me. Calling insurance companies. Okay, so yeah, these are the struggles. All right, so what I'm going to is how stem cell therapy, nutrition, ozone, and acupuncture come used together for neuropathic, for all kinds of conditions. Tomorrow we'll get deep into someone's got staff turnover, copacetically working with my entire team. That can be self-promotion of colleague gods who can fix it all. You guys are funny. Yes, there are. I see those too. Okay, not attracting enough patients. Okay, so these are some of the things that I've had, and especially as you move away from a personality-based business, and a personality-based business is where the patients are coming to see you. It's a Regan show, and the patients come, and as long as Regan's on his game, the business goes well. But if Regan's not on his game, or if Regan's in Hawaii, like I just came from Hawaii, we're getting an affiliate clinic going in Oahu, and if Regan's not involved, then all the other businesses collapse. But it's, you know, that's a personality-based business versus a real business is one that can run with or without you. And so these are some interesting things. But today what we'll be talking about is additional services. And some of you are going to cry a little bit because you're like, oh, Regan, my license doesn't allow me to put stem cell therapy or that's fine, but there's others out there. I'd much rather have you hire somebody and bring them on to actually administer those services versus you. I mean, when you use the word God, I mean, a lot of us, we get stuck in the role that we have to be the one performing all the services. Imagine if you just created an environment where your team could go in and deploy their talents and their gifts, and you put the right structures in place and the right business model. Bring in whatever you want. Bring in the MDs. I've got 3 MDs that work. And they're great to work with. They're awesome. So we'll be talking about how these things can be used together. We're going to be talking about the number one weakness that. Do it. Am I messing things up? All right, Sam is. I get a free pat down here. Do I need to tip you, or is this? So I'm getting undressed. Thank you. That was great. Loved it. So the number one issue that I find in our medical field with acupuncturists is uncertainty when it comes to talking about finances. I mean, we'll spend more money, more time, and more resources on the phone with insurance companies than we will just talking to patients about what their bill is. It's incredible how much easier it is to get paid from your patients versus the insurance company. So we'll talk about the 3 phases of the report of findings, which has gained a lot of notoriety recently. And then we'll create goals for your personal health as well. So as we go through this, that's the underlying thing, is start thinking about, okay, what are some things I can do for my own health right now? So that I brought basil. I got basil and spearmint. And the beautiful thing about this is if you're into intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, which we'll be talking about, then eating some of the aromatic herbs can really influence a lot of the autophagy that you want. It helps burn away some of those cells that you do not need in your body. So grab some basil and join us for a little kind of like a faux pas party. All right. So with this, my goal is for you to feel empowered and capable of growing practice in directions you never thought possible, and able to transform the health of thousands more because of this knowledge. So let's just look, and at the end of the weekend, what would you like to get out of this in order for you to be happy in spending your time with me? Or at the end of this, if you watch this in the future, what would you like to have happen? What would you like to learn and get out of this? And so if everyone can just take a minute and plug in a couple of goals you have, you know. And if you were someone who said, I want to learn how to not pay my taxes, well, that's illegal, so I cannot give you legal advice, but I can tell you how there's states that don't have state income tax. You can set your business structures up in. There's a lot of things. So some of you, passive income streams. I love passive income streams. They are amazing. I can share with you passive income streams, vision for growth, new trends. I love new trends. Successful balanced practice flowing smoothly. Yes, passive indeed, passive income. So tell me what you mean by passive income. I want to make sure we're on the right page. So I think of passive income is something I don't have to pay employment tax on. So my enterprises, I have multiple clinics, and so passive income to me is like my rent. So I own some commercial offices, and so I get rent from those, and I don't have to pay any income tax on that. I have investments, and they, while I'm sleeping, they make me money. I guess is that what you're thinking of passive? Or are you looking for a clinic that runs itself? Because that can be passive income, but you actually have to be there, and it's never where you just you actually have to engage yourself in new ways. And it doesn't take a lot of time, but it does require some serious energy, okay? Some of you want to know what is fair pay for an employee acupuncturist. Okay, passive income, something that doesn't require me to be there all the time. I love that, Tracy. Thank you. That's what I look at. I want to have freedom, right? I want to have freedom to do some awesome things in life. I got 3 kids, and I love to take my kids traveling, and we just were in Germany and Amsterdam, took them to Belgium as well over the Christmas break, and then I just got back from Hawaii, and I love it, and so it's so nice. Okay, so patience with abundant income that pays the bills, serves the community, runs itself. Freedom from the heels of others, being paid fair though. Okay, paid, got it, freedom. Okay, so hopefully today, remember one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan, he says, your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your brain is looking for. So if you are looking for these things, I guarantee you'll get it out of this weekend, and if you want some more clarity on these, then we can certainly jump in. As someone else, order of people to hire, team members needed outside of actual clinic providing treatments like mentors, financial planning. Yes, so yeah, mentors, strategic coach is a great business mentor that I've had for years. The Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, is another great one. Genius Network is a group I'm part of for marketing. There's so many things. And then financial planning, use Wealth Factory. My friend Garrett Gunderson, we set up Wealth Factory, so I have trusts and big trusts, so liability-wise, things are on lockdown, so it works really nice, and no matter where you are at financially, you want to protect yourself so you can keep the money. Not hard to make it, it's just keeping it is what most people struggle with. So I'm Regan. You guys are meeting me now, and some of you already know me. Whoops. And I'm most famous for helping people transform their mediocre acupuncture practices into vital practices. And I even help acupuncturists, if you already have a vital practice, I do my best work with those of you who collect 300 to 400K a year. That's where I can really bump you up to 7 figures very quickly. But we work with all acupuncturists, practices that employ the best medical systems in the world. I call it collaborative medicine because I believe that only by working together can we transform the health crisis. So we've got to collaborate with each other. I'm an author of 7 books. And I'm sorry, Donna and Sam, I didn't bring my new book. Your Healthy Self is my newest book. So you can find it on Amazon. But founder of Go Wellness, East West Health. We've got 5 clinics, 4 in Utah, 1 in New Mexico, called East West Health. Practice transformation process I've created with Go Wellness, and one of the only clinics to successfully integrate traditional Eastern medicine, stem cell therapy, and functional medicine. And we've helped over 60,000 people move towards health independence and beat chronic autoimmune and degenerative conditions. So, love it. Okay, so here's what one of our patients said. Now, once again, giving you guys the overall vision is if you get the right team. So this is one of our nurse practitioners, Devin, here. And she said, Tracy, she said, the angels at East West helped me get my life back. It was worth every penny. It wasn't easy. Work and dedication is required, but their guidance and encouragement, along with lifestyle changes, transformed my life. And so that is my goal. I want to transform people's lives, but as you can see, I had nothing to do with her care. I had a team that's doing it, and it's amazing. So Kayla asks, what do you mean by health independence? Well, health independence, and I'll get into my definition, but that is where you have the energy that you want to use that energy to do the activities, enjoy your life. You can move freely. You have health independence is when you really know what foods your body loves and what foods give you nourishment and energy and strength. You know what workouts to do. You aren't dependent on a medication. You're not dependent on an herb, a peptide, a nootropic, nothing like that for your health. But you do know how to optimize your health. So health independence to me is when I say, okay, I need my brain to work a certain way, today, then I know exactly what herbs and what substances to take, non-drug, non-pharmaceutical substances, to really maximize my brain performance. Or if I'm going on a long mountain ride, I know exactly what I need to get my body prepared for it, and I know how to recover. These are some of the health independence things, moving your body properly. All these are health independence, because I think we have this thing in our society. I'll talk about longevity more tomorrow, so I won't get into it too much, but instead of just living your life until you're about 65 and then you kind of you're dying, or you have what I wrote about in my book, Your Healthy Self, there's this term called premature mortality. And premature mortality is when we walk around with chronic diseases that typically show up later in life, but we walk around with them earlier and earlier and earlier. Like you've probably seen, Kayla, in your practice, 30-year-olds who are having heart attacks, or type 2 diabetes in their 20s, or patients, the autoimmune that's going on in the 30s, and it just persists through their whole life. Is not health independence in my perspective. So this is where I look at lab imbalances, and you want your labs to be clean from a functional medicine perspective all throughout this time. So how are we doing overall? And this is a great segue. So if you look at it, the World Health Organization found that 80 to 90% of our health outcomes are tied to where and how we live. So if you look at environmental pollution, air, these are all things that we need to be looking at when it comes to health independence, because right now 7 million people die prematurely every year from air pollution, both household and outdoor. And actually, I've heard indoor pollution. I read a study that showed that about 70% of the pollution that we get comes from our own house. So that is a very interesting statistic. Roughly 70% of the diseases in the U.S. are chronic lifestyle driven, and nearly half of the population has one or more chronic health conditions such as diabetes, asthma, heart disease, or obesity. And if you think about that, like 70% of diseases are chronic. And one of the reasons I got into Chinese medicine is because I looked at the Western medical model, and I realized that this is insane. Like, this model is prescription based. It's treat the symptom, let's suppress those symptoms, and then let's move on. So I'm reading this great book. The first book he wrote is called Bad Science. The second book he wrote is called Bad Pharma. And if you, oh, Mike Buzzy's on here. Whoop. Hey, Mike. Bad Pharma. Mike, you're going to love this book, Bad Pharma. But they talk about the ineptness of the Western medical field of treating chronic diseases. So I grew up on a farm in Idaho, and I used to move sprinkler pipe across the fields, and I'd have these planes that would come and crop dust the fields and soak me with Roundup. And it got to the place where when I was in my teens, I ended up getting psoriasis. And so my skin would peel back. Sometimes it'd get on my face, and I would be so embarrassed to go talk to my friends. I said, I'm not going out looking like this. And I noticed that my joints would ache, and the only way I could get out of farm work was to make the basketball team or the football team. So I was always interested in, performance from a physical perspective. And I ended up in my undergraduate work. I set out, I wanted to be a doctor, and so I was taking all the pre-medicine classes and getting ready to apply for medical school, and then I ended up getting really sick. My joints started to ache, my body got all kind of puffy, my hair started to fall out, and I was cold all the time, but I just really wasn't thriving. I could barely stay awake in school. And then finally, what happened is I had a naturopathic doctor who read my labs and said, hey, Regan, you've got an autoimmune disease. You've got Hashimoto's. And so we started treating my autoimmune disease, and this was 20 years ago, before gluten-free was a thing. And everyone would just be like, oh, you got celiacs, and is that a real disease? I'm like, no, I'm not gluten-free because I have celiacs. I'm gluten-free because I'm trying to give my immune system a break from any foods that I would react to, because we traced my exposure to the glyphosate in the Roundup to my autoimmunity. And so we got rid of the glyphosate. I started doing apple cider vinegar. That's why I'm such a big fan of it now. I do these fasts, and I ended up recovering a substantial amount of my health. It took me almost to the end of maybe 2010 to really get feeling great. And then it was when I started doing stem cell IVs that I got my TPO, my thyroid peroxidase antibodies, completely eradicated. And it's just been amazing. But I look at what we can do for these chronic lifestyle-driven diseases, and what happened to me, and I said, man, what happened to me was, here's your steroids, here's your antibiotics, and I'll see you in a few months when you need your prescription refilled. And so what we can do with our medicine is so transformative. I mean, literally, there are billions of people who need our help. So some of the most popular drugs right now. Lipitor, #1, Lipitor, and this is interesting because I'll get into Lipitor in just a minute here, and you'll read this in Bad Pharma of how they manipulate the studies so that we think that having high cholesterol and lowering that, does Lipitor lower cholesterol? Yes, in the majority of people who take it, it lowers cholesterol. The real question is it meaningful to lower cholesterol? And what the science shows is not necessarily. So we got Lipitor, we got Prinavil, Zestril, this is for hypertension, we got Synthroid, Norvasc, another hypertension med, Motrin, amoxicillin. Wow, amoxicillin's been around for a long time. Hydrocodone, Prilosec, prednisone, and Cozar. So these are the most popular drugs as of 2019, February. And Synthroid was top of the list from about 2013 to 2017, but it's always been statin. Statin's always up there, so kind of interesting. So we have a big debate going on right now. We got, in the acupuncture world, I see a lot of you saying, Medicare is going to cover acupuncture, and now we've got this code where it's basically a research code for back pain. And so feeling accomplished, and I think I've gotten us using insurance company because Medicare is a smart payer. I mean, I don't have any patients. One of you asked, well, how can you bring me abundant patients who have they have the affluence where they can pay for the services so I can have a smooth practice, Regan? Well, Well, there's no single person on the planet that is as wealthy as the United States government. I don't know if you guys realize that, but they can print money at will. I mean, and so Medicare is good to get involved with, but it does come at a price, because Medicare, the issue that I have with it, in Medicare for All and the single-payer system, is it just doesn't work. The United States is a country that's built on innovation. It's a country that's built on, where obviously is capitalism, and so in order to make capitalism work, you have to bring value to the marketplace. And in these socialized countries or socialized medicine, there's not a lot of innovation, not a lot of value that gets brought to the table, which is why the United States, our research and our innovations, the rest of the world actually feeds on those. And yes, we pay for it here in this country, and we need to get better about saying, hey, you guys are going to pay for it out there, but we aren't that. But when you get someone that says Medicare for all, well, let's look at the underlying philosophy of Medicare. So right from the Medicare guidelines, they say to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. Now, how many of you practice medicine, and your whole practice is built around prevention of disease, right? Prevention of disease. That's what we got. One of the main reasons we got into medicine. How many of you promote health on a daily basis? Okay, how many of you prolong and enhance the quality of life? And if you said no to all these three, then Medicare is a really good move for you. But if you said yes, then what you're doing is not considered medically necessary, and so it's going to be really tough to kind of fit your guidelines into Medicare. Now, they're covering some very interesting services, and there's certain things that our medical team is starting to use Medicare again. I left the insurance world about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. I had enough of it. Just fighting for payments. I found that my patients, we started looking at the out-of-pocket expenses as deductibles have gone up. And we said, this is ridiculous, because we could, instead of billing them for all the co-pays and having them hit their deductible, then the percentage of the plan that their insurance company covered, we just said, man, let's just charge cash. And we actually saved our patients money, and our profits have just gone through the roof year after year. So it's really nice to get out of that game. And Medicare is now starting to look at some regenerative medicine services, which is pretty exciting. So what if I asked you, or what if President Trump, better yet, what if President Trump tweeted you or called you? I think his Twitter account, I've never seen someone move as many mountains as that does just with his weird tweets. But what if he asked you to create a brand new healthcare system? Just brand new. They said, look, I want you, Donna, you're going to create a brand new healthcare system for America. And, what would you do different? I mean, maybe you guys could start looking at that. Yeah, someone said, I stopped taking insurance last year except for VA. No regrets. Yeah. And I find the VA can be a lot. Mike Buzzy, who's on this, is a VA specialist as far as insurance goes and billing. And he's definitely opened up my eyes to what's available for it. Trump needs Tianwang Bushingdong. some free and easy wanderer would be good. Okay, so really, if we think about it, who is in charge of ending pain and chronic disease? I mean, does anyone have a monopoly on that? Who's in charge of innovative medicine? And who owns healthcare, really? Do we want the government to own healthcare? I absolutely do not want that. So why not you? I think these are really important things to start looking at in your overall practice. So if we look at Chinese medicine and we say, man, the context and the richness that Chinese medicine brings is huge. So you look at the Neijing, and this was 2,000 years ago. I'm not loving the political stuff here. I'm actually not talking any politics. I'm actually giving context around what we can do, because I think context, thanks for bringing that up, Karen. I think context is the most important thing we need in order to create confidence in entering into the medical field like fully armed with what we can do. And if we don't have context, then what we can do is then we lose our confidence. So so sorry, and I'm sorry. Trump does happen to be our president, and what he was asking is I was asking you, what if he called you up and said, hey, Karen, I want you to handle medicine from here on? And what would you do? That's all I'm asking. I'm saying who runs this, because actually it's a free market system, and the more of us that can stand up and actually start doing something about it, the better it will be. I can promise you that you guys have far more tools at your disposal than Medicare does, than Trump does, than the whole government itself. I mean, we practice this beautiful medicine that's been around for thousands of years, but most people don't even realize it. So that's where we're going. How about biohacking? How many of you would love to see biohacking be part of your overall practice? I think this is such a fascinating place in medicine, because I love the ancient medicine, but I also love looking deep into the future and saying, what can we bring in and just kind of create this nice synergy and this synergistic effect, because there's so many new devices and sensors coming out that, yes, you can get lost in those and you can get overwhelmed, but there is also just this incredible breadth of knowledge where if you actually know what your numbers are, you're not playing guessing games with your health. Most of us, we play guessing games with our health. And same with our patients. We play guessing games with the health of our patients. So how about we put some biohacking? So what I'm going to talk to you about now, since we've created context, and since someone said, Madalena, yes, unfortunately politics controls healthcare. They do when you're in the system. And so I'm going to share with you guys that there's actually a new way out of this, where we can actually start really jamming, where we can bring our medicine to the forefront. So yes, and Mike Buzzy, thank you. Illness care is controlled by politics, healthcare is not. Yeah, I don't think we have any type of a healthcare system. If you look at the definition from Medicare, if you're seeking to prevent disease, prolong and enhance the quality of life, and promote health, that is healthcare in my mind. And so that's what we're here. So let's talk about how to deliver uniqueness. And so there's three phases when you're delivering uniqueness. The very first thing, you have to discover what somebody's needs are. You have to really care enough to dive deep enough to discover what their issues are, what their triggers are, and then you've got to design an overall plan. Most of us, we miss the discovery stage, and we design a plan that's very narrow, and then we go to deliver, and we're trying to deliver 2 or 3 acupuncture visits and get them out. And so let's talk about ways that we can actually do this better. So number one is patients love what's called road mapping. And road mapping is where you create timelines for healing. And so timelines for healing is where you let people know where you're going, how long it's going to take, and what the stops are along the way, and what to expect from your care. Now, this is critical, because imagine if you enrolled into a program like at school or something, and you didn't realize how long schooling would take. I think we'd all get pretty frustrated in that process. And so what you want to do is you want to create a process around what every patient experiences, but it's got to be repeatable. You can't just say, okay, one patient gets 3 treatments, one gets 12, one gets 50. You want to break it up into either 90-day or 100-day cycles, so that you know, okay, every 100 days I'm taking you through this. We're going to help you get 1% healthier every day for the next 100 days, and that's going to be phase 1. And then phase 2 is where we go through the next 100 days. Phase 3, the next, phase 4. So after the 4 phases, you'll basically have taken through somebody through a year of care. And imagine if you had a year to work with somebody. Not only are the patients going to have, their expectations will be far more realistic, but you'll have more predictability, because how many of you can tackle a lot of these chronic diseases in a year? How many of you would love to work with someone who committed to work with you for a year versus trying to go and get new patients all the time? And you have a patient who comes in, you try to get a new one. They come in, they go out. And I've had people tell me, like, well, I get all my patients better in 3 to 4 visits, Regan. Well, you get them better, but that means they're dependent on you. So next time things break down, they're calling you back, which is fine. It's one way of practicing. But I think about it and I say, man, what if we could really arm people with true health independence? That would be exciting for me. So whatever you want to create in your practice, think about what your patients feel like when they go through and experience care from you. How many of you would love to just get treated by yourself? And how many of you would just love to experience that? And so next time you go, Monday or whatever day you're going to see your patients again, think about how you're communicating. Think about the depth that you're going with them. And then think about, are you moving them every time they come in? What are your treatments like? Are they really feeling it? Are they growing from your treatments? Are they getting better? Are they expanding in their health? And could you duplicate that? Because predictability, what it does is if you have predictable systems and you put in processes in your office, what AT&T said is the system is the solution. And so if you can put in systems that create predictability as far as outcomes go and a predictable timeline for your patients so they know what to expect when, they will love you forever. I mean, how many of you have been to a Starbucks before? And I was just shocked because, here we are, we're in like Cologne, Germany, and there's Starbucks everywhere. And I'm going, this is ridiculous. Like, how did they get such a monopoly on coffee? They got us all paying $5 or $7 for a cup of coffee, which was unheard of when the idea was conceived. But one of the reasons Starbucks is so profitable is because they do have predictability. And then one of the reasons why Apple was the first company to hit $1 trillion, and they're being caught up by Amazon quickly. Maybe Amazon's already surpassed them. I'm sure some of you would know that, but the reason why Apple is such a beautiful company and hit the $1 trillion mark first in valuation is because they had a process that people love. They put the art into the technology so that it was an interface that you and I could easily and seamlessly work back and forth with. So that's where I've got my iPhone. And I'm not a tech guy, but Steve Jobs, great thing in helping me understand it. So when you go through the phases of care, there's 3 main phases that you want to look at. And these 3 main phases, it doesn't matter what type of medicine you're practicing, but number 1 is the health triggers. So the health triggers can take 4 to 16 weeks. Okay, so Ann says, Starbucks, you're paying for a place to sit down for hours and use Wi-Fi, not just coffee. There you go. Yes, it's an experience that you can jump back into. And Microsoft has the largest market cap. Yep, Microsoft is actually, yes, with all their software programs. And then Apple, Amazon, Google. Awesome. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. So I did not know Microsoft had the largest cap. I knew Amazon is, Jeff Bezos is sort of the warlord getting ready to take over the world. I got rid of our Alexa. It was crazy. Have you seen that? Even in a conversation, and you mention one thing, next thing you know, it's like, hey, do you want to buy this? Okay, so health triggers. Phase 2 is the health transition. This is 6 to 8 weeks. And then phase 3 is the health transformation. 6 weeks to 52 weeks. So ideally, you want to work with patients over the course of a year, if that's what you want to do. But what I find is if we're going to tackle chronic diseases, Western medicine does great. You have an acute issue. My son had this compound fracture. His bone was sticking out of his arm. We were at this trampoline park. And I did not take him to a Chinese medical clinic, believe it or not. I said, all right, we're going to the hospital. And at the hospital, they did a great job as far as like managing the symptom. I mean, it's heroic medicine. The only thing I didn't like is David says Johnson & Johnson is number 8. We had to reset the bone, and the images that we took were pretty painful for my son, but they did a great job of fixing him. So that's fine. But when we're going into treating chronic conditions, then the phase 1 becomes very critical, because this is where you have to start looking at nutrition. You look at the roadblocks to healing, and some of the biggest roadblocks are going to be the anemic conditions, the blood sugar issues, and then a lot of these anemic conditions and blood sugar issues are driven by poor nutrition. And this is interesting because if you don't address all these things, the circadian rhythms are what can balance things out even better, even quicker than nutrition, time-restricted eating. And getting them doing a little intermittent fasting can be incredible at reducing inflammation, resetting their circadian rhythms. That helps regulate the melatonin and cortisol. You get them sleeping better. You turn on their brain, regulate the stress hormones. That is all going to be addressed in phase 1. So think about how you can do that in your practice. Yes, and Carol said as soon as you get out of the ER, you go to your acupuncturist. Absolutely. My son got acupuncture from his dad right there in the ER, and then we've done stem cells on him. My daughter just had surgery. She had nevus sebaceous syndrome, and so we got some of the glands removed on her face here and her forehead. And we did exosomes, we did stem cells. I have this stem cell from perinatal tissue, this spackle that I put on it. It's awesome. And then I've been doing acupuncture. So absolutely, Carol. That's why I think the medicines need to go together, side by side. Okay, so phase 1, think about all the triggers that are getting in the way of your patients getting help. You know, do you know what their blood sugar looks like? Are you checking their hemoglobin A1C? Are you checking their glucose? I mean, it costs $10 and you can test somebody's glucose. It's phenomenal. Do you balance their circadian rhythms? You talk about this. Do you correct their anemic conditions? I mean, we're all into blood deficiency, and are you really building that up? So someone asks, acupuncture and herbs are very slow in healing Lyme. It is, and I'm going to show you some shortcuts to that, Richard, because I've treated Lyme for about 14 years. Can you use stem cells for thyroid? Absolutely. That's how I got rid of my thyroid peroxidase antibodies. I got them down to very, very low or zero. So number one problem is compliance. So I'm going to show you some new ways, because that is everyone's number one problem is compliance. But this is why we're talking about road mapping, so you get a bigger vision of what you need to take your patients through. And I'll share with you some of the shortcuts to get people feeling better quick with stem cell therapy, with peptides. These have been incredible little hacks and little bypasses, and then you're using the Chinese medicine to support all of that. Okay, phase 2. Phase 2 is where this can take 6 to 8 weeks. This is where you take patients through gut health, detoxification. You work on their thyroid, their movement, their infections, their chemicals, the emotions, the traumas, genetics, food, and mindset. And this phase 2, so we call it a transition phase, because think about when you've made a big transition in your life. And when you make a big transition, suddenly now you're like, you need some real support. So once you put out the initial fires, this is kind of like you got the forest fire, and you're dousing the big things, the triggers, you know, that can usually takes, you know, anywhere from 4 to 16 weeks. But once that big flame, and you get the wind dies down, and you can actually get the fire under control, then you go into the transition when now the smoke is just coming up and all the fire's out. But now we got to transition and create the foundation so that you can start regrowth. And so this is gut health is a key component here, and that's where you want to do stool testing. If you're not doing stool testing, you want to look at detoxification pathways. So if you guys are using like MTHFR, you know, that's just one little tiny snip, but look at their methylation patterns, look at their COMT, how well are they metabolizing, you know, dopamine, for example, or metabolizing the estrogens. That's where the catecholamine methyltransferase is one of the key genes that you want to look at. But this is one of the ways you can work on detoxification. Then you think about working on the liver, the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways, getting their glutathione, their selenium, some of those key antioxidant levels up, and then getting them on some activated charcoal, binding up some of the heavy metals that are in all of our bodies. I mean, I just read an interesting study where I can't remember the exact quantity of plastic that we drink, but we all drink, it's something to the tune of like 7 pounds of plastic over the course of a lifetime is what we're drinking right now. And now we got these microplastics that are showing up in our salts, and so it's crazy. So there's another new study that shows that worms might be the solution for eating all of this plastic. But once again, detoxification, and we'll get into some of that later on as we dive deep into these. Thyroid health. I think thyroid is such a critical thing, but I know we all jump to thyroid first, like let's work on the thyroid, and I see my medical team, oh, mushrooms eat plastic too. That is awesome. Well, and I love myself some mushrooms, so good. Mushrooms eat poop, the psilocybin. So one of the other things that you look at is with the thyroid is you want to say, well, how is the liver doing? Can the liver convert that T4 into T3? If cholesterol levels aren't balanced, then you're going to have a really hard time correcting thyroid issues. And then, how are your patients moving? This is a key component. Infections, you want to look at, Richard's talking about Lyme. Lyme disease is rampant, but, Lyme usually has a co-infection. Lyme can mimic mold, and so you can look at mold toxicity, and it shows up very similar to Lyme, and so we're seeing that there's always multiple infections. Yes, and you nailed it, Richard. Yeah, it's just never a single one. There's co-infections. And I find that if your immune system's strong enough, there's things we can do to get those spirochetes out of the brain now for Lyme, and there's things we can do for Epstein-Barr viral loads. The majority of your thyroid patients who have autoimmunity are going to have Epstein-Barr virus. So these are things you look at. Getting rid of the chemicals, addressing the emotions, and then the traumas, and then genetics, food, and mindset. These are all fun things that you work on in the transition. And then my favorite, and this is where I've started working exclusively with patients, is the phase 3. This is the health transformation. And if you have not read my book, Your Health Transformation, it's about 5 years old, but still a very relevant, great book. The health transformation, it never stops. So this is a process you can take your patients through over and over and over again. You can take them through, the initial maybe 6 to 8 weeks when they're going through their initial plan of care with you, and then you just keep repeating it over and over and over and over. And so, yes, so Richard says, as a toxic mold and environmental toxin expert, detox is, yes, detox is essential to heal all illness, absolutely. And we put it in phase 2 in the transition because we want to make sure they're strong enough before you put it in there. That's why sometimes the triggers, 4 weeks can be the minimum because they have already identified a lot of those, and then you just go through and slowly detox. So beautiful, love it. Thanks for the feedback, everybody. Even those of you who don't like my images of Trump, I appreciate that too. So. Okay, phase 3. This is fun because this is where we get into biohacking. So you'll see me put on, I'll use one of my biohacking devices a little later on in the day. It's too early to wear my cool blue light blocking glasses. But biohacking is something that's incredibly fun and incredibly useful. I'm on a couple of biohacking groups, and what I learned from people who are in the biohacking world is that these are people who are looking to upgrade their health all the time. Dave Asprey is the individual who coined the term biohacking, and he's been incredible. And I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow, but I'll be talking about some of the key tools that you can use in biohacking. We're going to be talking about the brain health. It's not talked a lot about, but we're going to talk about how to really turn on your brain with nootropics and peptides. We'll talk about exercise, fasting. This is nutrition, muscle building, longevity, memory, habits, hormesis, and light. Muscle building is interesting because in Chinese medicine, it's not really looked at. I mean, we have in Asia we have kind of the Buddha with the belly. In America, we have like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember Jeffrey Dan. One of my mentors, he kind of had this whole structural alignment course on those two kind of archetypes in our societies. But muscle building, if you really want to live a long time, you need to keep your muscles really healthy. And if you want to keep your blood sugar stable, well, muscle health is going to be one of the critical components of that. So that's it. A lot of these things I've talked about on my podcast, Go Wellness Radio. If you guys have not subscribed to that, please do. If you want to be a guest, I am taking abstracts right now. So love to get you guys on it. Okay, so now that you kind of see the foundation of road mapping and creating a unique experience, now I'm going to talk to you about the method and the process. Donna, how often am I supposed to take breaks?
2 morning breaks, so we can take one now if you want.
Okay, so let's take a quick break before we change up. And Greg, you're on this too. You're in Alaska? Bretta. I just came from Hawaii. Greg and I went to school together, and Greg was in Montana last time. Okay, guys, we're going to take a break, so come back in about, how long, Donna?
Do you want 10 or 15?
10's good. We got a lot to cover, and everyone loves it if we end early tonight, so we'll take shorter breaks, and that would be perfect.